Yours truly, a heartwarming Thanksgiving story. It's getting darker outside as you sit alone on the porch. A lantern hangs next to the front door, just enough to illuminate the trees and grass around you. A cool breeze whistles into your ears. You notice a small vehicle pull up to the mailbox. A sudden stir of emotions brings you to your feet. You approach the mailman quickly, with your cold hands tucked into your pockets. The mailman soon hands you a yellowish brown envelope. You both exchange a few words before quickly moving on with your lives. As you walk back to your house, you feel a certain weight to the letter, as if the words inside were 1 pound each. The war had ended 2 weeks ago, yet this was the only letter you had gotten in a span of 2 months. It is now the 29th of November. You knew he could take care of himself, but sometimes it was difficult to put so much hope into something that was not certain. No, you shouldn't dwell on it any longer than need be. Opening the door in front of you, a warm current catches you by surprise. You invite yourself into the living room, where a fire crackles behind the fender. Everything appears to have been untouched for quite some time. Perhaps you'll eventually come around to clean it up a bit. To your right is a small breakfast nook. You flick the light switch on before taking a seat. The letter in your hand somehow feels even heavier. You reach for the letter opener on the table, careful not to tear the paper, and for the first time in 2 months, your eyes gaze upon the familiar handwriting you'd hope to see again. October 19th, 1918. Dear Miss Daffodil, I hope this letter finds you in good health. I apologize for not writing sooner. The trenches followed it, so my previous letter was ruined. I cannot tell you how much I miss back home and the sight of anything green. I don't think there is any place that could compare to the calloused winters of France. How has the weather been for you? It is cold and muddy here as usual, but believe it or not, this winter has been more gracious than the past two have been. From the outside, a scratch grates against the window next to you. Startled, you look up, spotting a narrow branch moving in the wind. Relief fills your mind. In recent days, it has been cool and dry outside with scattered rainfall. The property has been well kept with strong, healthy oak trees and even a couple of daffodils blooming, your favorite flower. If you ever had spare time, you would busy yourself with yard work. Now your hands were quite rough from labor. There was simply too much work. You break from your thoughts before frustration overcame you and continue reading. Can you believe it has been nearly 4 years since we've last seen each other? I still remember when we were just a couple of kids playing tag out in the fields. Back then, you wore your signature messy hair and dressed in a pair of overalls to tease the grown-ups. Their reactions were priceless. A quiet chuckle escapes your lips. The memories come flooding back to you like a heat wave. Mama had never tolerated the boyish way you dressed. On the contrary, Papa never mentioned anything about it. In fact, you would notice a subtle grin on his face whenever Mama found you in a pair of overalls. Though it wasn't long before you began wearing dresses after feeling sorry for poor Mama. As for your younger brother, Willis, he never wore those overalls again. I know you hate it when I say this, but try to take care of yourself. I know family comes first. I just want you to be happy as well. Also, make sure to always wear gloves, as those munition factories can work your fingers to the bone. And if you see Willis again, please tell him to write me back. If he won't, then don't worry about it. I will reach out to him when I get back. Your shoulders stiffen. You haven't seen Willis since before he was sentenced to a year in prison. He had told you a friend of his sold him a pack of cigarettes, two which he only found out later were stolen. His friend fled town, leading the police to arrest Willis instead. You knew Willis wasn't one to lie, but ever since the earth-shattering news of Papa being MIA 2 years ago, Willis was never himself again. On the other hand, you began holding yourself up in this house for hours on end. Though you no longer had to work at the factory, there was still a heavy cloud of stress anchored over you. You weren't sure when was the last time you even came close to a chuckle. Every day felt like a mental battlefield where you were trapped in no man's land, waiting on a miracle. Blinking, you look at the letter once again, attempting to make out the slightly smudged handwriting. I'm not sure when this letter will reach you, but I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. I've no doubt you're planning on making that famous pumpkin pie of yours. Perhaps you could invite the Crowells over this year. Their son was stationed in Belgium a couple of weeks ago, so I can only write to him. The last I heard from him was 5 days ago. Says he's doing fine and is hoping to send a letter to his family by the end of next week. Anyway, all is well as it gets here. I'm not sure how much longer I will be gone, but promise me you will continue to take care of yourself until I come back. Love you and hope to hear from you soon. Yours truly, Private Whiskey. A cold droplet of liquid slides down your face. Surprised, you wipe your eyes only to notice a few more streaming down your cheek. He always ended his letters with Private Whiskey. As when you last saw him, he was attempting to grow a beard, reminding you of a cat's whiskers. Plus, he loved whiskey, thus giving you the nickname idea. These letters were always something you looked forward to after a strenuous day at the munition factory. Regardless of what was written in them, you savored every word. The true reason why you spent more time in the yard was so that whenever a letter arrived, you would be right there to take it. You simply couldn't bargain with the unsympathetic weather. You suddenly hear footsteps on the porch. Your heart flutters anxiously. A knock at the door follows shortly after. You hold the letter tightly in your hand before looking out the window. However, the bright orange accents of sunlight blind you. Regaining your senses, you creep towards the door, placing your left hand on the metal knob, turning slowly. First, a blinding beam of sunlight puts you in a daze. Second, a powerful gust of cold wind hits you in the face. You clutch the letter tighter, fearing that it will fly away. Once your vision clears, you see a hazy shadow in front of you. You squint your eyes in an attempt to focus your vision when a sudden wave of utter joy overtakes you. Tears are streaming down your face, and before you can react, a pair of arms wrap around you in a warm embrace. Unexpectedly, another arm wraps around your shoulder. You turn your head, startled, and upon doing so, a tsunami of tears threatens to pour. You both have no words to say to each other. Instead, you free your right arm to pull your little brother, who was now 5 inches taller than you, into a tight hug. You'd forgotten about the letter that was in your hand, which was unusual. Perhaps it had fallen and you didn't notice, or the wind finally whisked it away. Whatever happens to it would be up to nature. After all these years of blood, sweat, and tears, everything suddenly felt different. You had been exposed to so much darkness that you forgot what happiness was. But at this moment, both of your brothers were home. You simply couldn't be upset at either of them. You were wholeheartedly thankful.